am Eliza Mokeen, and we are two brown chicks changing the face of therapy on both sides of the couch.
Welcome, welcome, welcome back to the show.
Yes.
We have an awesome guest today that we're going to be able to talk all about working with teenagers and their mental health. We do want to do a quick announcement that we have, and of course I didn't pull it up. We have a happy hour.
We do. It's
Houston.
next week. 9/20 is next week, right? September 20th is next Friday?
Yes, next Friday. Here in Houston at Phil and Derek's.
Yes,
so
6 to 9 p.m.
If you are a mental health professional, a mental health advocate, just someone who wants to be around a lot of dope therapists.
Or just you like us.
Yeah, you just want to come and support. Come hang out.
Come say hi.
We'll be hanging out at Phil and Derek's from 6 to 9.
That's going to be fun.
So they have decent food and good drinks and all that fun stuff. So come hang out with us. And yeah, I think that's it.
Always a good time.
Always fun time. So, all right. So today we are joined by Miss Chanell Hill, who is going to help us learn a little bit more about working with teenagers. She is a clinical social worker, as well as an advocate for adolescent mental health. And so can you tell us, welcome, first off, thank you for joining us.
Welcome.
Hi, ladies. Thank you all for having me.
Of course.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about your practice, how you got into mental health and chose this specialty.
So I would like to say it chose me. I did not choose it. My mom always gets on me all the time, or she always jokes and laughs at me. It says, you girl look like you didn't like kids. You wasn't messing with kids. And I definitely did. I did not like them. But my journey is a little different, just real briefly. I was in school for public health. So when I was undergrad, I was actually my major was in sociology and minor in health sciences.
Wow.
Because I went to go to public health department, and then dreams just shifted. So right after undergrad, I started working in the high school at a health center. So I'm from California, so what they had there is called a health center. So at 22 years old, I was working at a high school in the health center. And then I did 2 school years there, and then I decided to go back to school. And then I was kind of debating public health or social work. And I decided to go to social work. So that kind of just my journey. And I just realized I related so much to them. And that's how I became into such. So now I'll be 32 in October. It's going on almost 9 years that I have been working with teens in various aspects, but primarily in the school system. So now I'm at Corliss High School. So I'm in Chicago now. I've been here for 7 years. I worked at a high school. I'm going into my 3rd school year with them here at Corliss. I worked in elementary, but I like my high school kids. So I just started to see in Chicago, as with anywhere, they are dealing with so much trauma, PTSD, depression, anxiety. It's a lot. So I start to see that I was given the behavior side. And I started to see it was much more than just them fighting in class, them being disruptive. One incident that really just stopped me in my tracks, I remember coming into the school, and one of the girls said, Miss Hill, I was angry today because I was hungry.
Oh, wow.
This was at 1 o'clock. I was so mad because I couldn't believe that she had got through this day without eating. She had gotten in trouble, but nobody stopped to ask her, did she have something to eat last night? So it's just stories like that. And I remember going to the principal, going to people like, what's going on? Oh, she was like, okay, but she has a lot going on. Why is the child here? But that's what happened, right? We see them angry, we see them upset and things like that, but we don't know the backstory. So I went, got groceries from Walmart, was like, here, you eat.
Right.
And she was there. But that just shows me just, instances. And a lot of times when I see kids and their attitudes, they're not together, they're upset or fighting, I just instantly, what happened last night? Did you sleep? Where were you staying? What occurred? And it's always a backstory. So I just think that's my gifting in my heart, that I'm able to come into the school as an advocate and as a mental health professional and just help them. So that's kind of how I got started.
Okay, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I think that's, we talk a lot about just with teens or even children, how we don't necessarily see the importance of like or recognize their mental health in general, right? We sometimes recognize the physical health. We obviously recognize the behaviors, but we don't think about how that's all connected to their mental health as well.
Like, why are they behaving the way that they're behaving? Why are they acting this way?
Right.
And really, taking this position of curiosity that we did, like, wait, what's going on? Are the fundamentals being met? The basic needs being met, that I think so often just go into, this kid is just bad.
Right. So talk a little bit about like why it is important that we acknowledge the mental health of teenagers and how it does impact their daily life.
We have to acknowledge it because there's so many bad decision making due to their mental health, from drugs to suicidal ideation to suicide attempts to actually committing suicide, teen pregnancy. It's a lot going on that kind of, you need to address it, because if we get them in their mind, their emotions, and their spirits, they'll be much better people, much better students. You'll see higher graduation rates. You'll see lower rates of kids being sent out of class and suspended. You'll see families actually participating if we really address. So it's so important, because it's healthy children, they become healthy adults. Instead of unhealthy children becoming unhealthy adults, not being emotionally intelligent, not having healthy relationships, and you see an older person, you wonder why, you can more than likely track back to childhood about something that happened and that just was not addressed.
Right.
So it's so important. You have to acknowledge it where they're at, whether elementary or teen.
Yeah. I definitely feel like there's a little bit of, once you have went through these years of whatever you've been dealing with, whether that's family life, school, whatever, and then you become an adult, it becomes a lot harder sometimes to kind of unpack those things because it's so embedded in who we are. And so it sounds like if you start addressing things a lot earlier, then you will see a huge impact on people's lives and their fulfillment in their lives in the future.
Yeah.
So what would you want teens who are struggling, and maybe they have been told they're bad, or maybe they have been told they have a behavior issue. Like, what would you want them to know about, like, their mental health and how that could be impacting how they're behaving?
I would want them to know, first of all, that they're not by themselves. And second of all, us as adults, we're not immune and have not gone through what they are going through. It might have been a different generation and different times, but we have gone through some of the similar things they've had to go through as well. So my first kids, I want them to know, they start to feel like I'm by myself, nobody understands, I'm alone. No, you're not. You are not alone at all. We are here. The adults in your life, and there are good people around you who are not looking down on you, but actually want to help you, because that's another misperception that, nobody wants to talk to us and hear our voice and what we're going through. Absolutely not. We're here to advocate for you. And if you work towards a strong mind, body, and spirit, you will have a strong mind, body, and spirit as a young adult, as you go into adulthood and as an older person.
So kind of finding those people around you, or those adults that really do want to support you in your growth and your mental health.
Right. We are here. Here. Build a circle. We are here. You're not by yourself, and you have people that have your back.
And I think you being that person where probably for a lot of teens, you may be the only person telling them that. You may be not the only teen. You may be the only person telling them, there is somebody that cares. Just really kind of being that, holding up that light that there is hope. And so I think not always knowing just even how impactful it can be to hear that from just one person.
Right.
Absolutely. And me as an adult advocating on our behalf, holding other adults accountable, holding administration accountable here in the school, holding a principal, the dean of students, the teachers, holding them accountable to be open to help our children in their social and emotional learning.
Mm-hmm. I'm curious, as someone who works with the kids in the school environment, but even thinking about clinicians that may be working with teenagers for whatever reason, whether it's they've been court ordered or the family has decided to put the child in some type of therapy. what suggestions would you have if you're working with a teenager, but the family dynamics is a huge issue?
Yeah.
You know, like how do you help a teenager or a child, I guess in general, that's going home to a toxic environment?
Absolutely. A lot of my kids are going home to toxic environments. I just had a child tell me the other day, like, Miss Hill, I don't want these responsibilities. I want to still be a kid, but I'm going through this. Like, she missed the whole first week of school. And I was like, where you been? And we had a conversation. And that stuck with me, too. And I'm like, these kids want to be kids. Yeah. But they're going home to abuse. They're mentally, emotionally, physically. They're going home to neglect. They're going home to responsibilities that they don't want, but they've taken on because of their family dynamics. So being here, just really building them up, but as well as challenging the administration to put funding into family programs as well. So back to school night, welcome, not only back to school night, report card pickup, just different things throughout the years that really incorporate parents. So they can come in because they're dealing with their issues too. So we can help address their issues that can provide a healthier home environment for our students who can thrive there and then thrive at the school. So kind of just like a whole circle. So my kids, as I told my student yesterday, I said, you know what? It's unfortunately you have these situations. This situation is going to help strengthen you. Let's make out our goals. Let's go to our goals. Now, you know later what you might not want to do or do with your child when that time comes. Give your mom some grace. But now we move forward. I'm here with you every step of your way. We're going to get through it. And as long as Miss Hill has a room, you can come here and be a child as much as you can.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's fantastic.
That's awesome. So kind of creating a space for them to still have their childhood and not feel like they have to be an adult in every situation.
That's beautiful.
That's awesome.
Right.
So what are some of your favorite resources for teens or parents dealing with mental health issues?
One of my favorite resources actually just came out by Marlene. She has a book called The State of Black Girls, so that's really, really good. I like that. There's another book out called Emotionally Intelligent for Teens on Amazon that I love. It's amazing. Another resource that we can kind of flip is Henry Cloud's Boundaries. That is a really good book. Even though it's towards adults, it can be used for teens as well.
I thought they had one for
Those are
for parents.
My top three.
I know they have boundaries for all these different areas. So for some reason, I thought they might have had one for parents or something like that. But
I'm curious about the Emotional Intelligent book for teens. You said you really like that one. What is it that you like about that book?
It helps me be able to get my curriculum to address them. So it helps me as a young adult millennial in social work, as licensed clinical social work, to check my emotional intelligence and make sure I'm emotionally healthy, and then flip some of the activities to help the team. That's why I like it. Because I be checking myself. I be like, there I yelled it. Like, Miss Hill, like, are you working through some stuff? Do you have a rest day? They tell you need to get this together when you walk in the room.
Yeah.
Okay, and then flip it, and then let my children know that they are resilient, that they recognize and respect themselves, and I have healthy emotions, and my emotions don't show me. Because that's where I see a lot of the fighting coming from. Because they just I'm like, okay, well, what happened?
Right.
How do we get coping skills instead of snapping and putting your hands on somebody? And, so now you're in trouble. So it's like, there's no hesitation. Now you have a whole list of consequences. I'm trying to get you out of in-school suspension. And they're looking at me crazy, but what can we do before that even has started?
Right.
So emotional triggers, too. That's a big one. A lot of them have triggers. The issue is learning coping skills to management. Because they see around them, people drink, people smoke, do drugs, have sex, and manage it. It's healthy ways to manage your coping skills.
Okay. So you're really helping to model that for them. It's difficult.
Right. I try to be the best example if possible. I'm not perfect, but I try to be the best example.
But you're giving them another example. You're modeling for them something different where, I think even as adults, it's difficult for us to do it, especially if we don't have the modeling. So I think that really highlights how, Eboni and I always say, like, we don't work with kids, we don't work with teens. It's hard, it's really, really hard. And so I think that's one of the the importance of this position as clinicians that work with adolescents, that work with the youth, because you may be that first person or that only person that is going to model for them something different. And now, they're young enough to learn something different versus, coming in to our room at 45 and trying to learn it,
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
That's true. So what tips do you have for parents? So if my child seems to be having some mental health struggles or having behaviors in school, how do they understand, what tips do you have for them to be able to make that connection?
I would tell them utilize the resources, one, in the school. Advocate for if they need an IEP or if they need a 504 plan. I know it's different in different states, but majority of school districts are IEPs. Find out who's the school psychologist, who's the school social worker, who they can talk to and say, my child, they're there for a reason. I know a lot of schools don't have it yet, but a lot more schools are incorporating school social workers, counselors, psychologists, dean of students, and things like that. So utilize that. That's free. That's their job. Right. That's the first thing to utilize that. Make sure, hey, my child is exhibiting these type of traits. This is going wrong at home. I don't know how to talk to them. Can you help me? And then outside of that, I'm looking for community resources and programs, Boys and Girls Clubs, different mentoring programs for girls and boys to help as well. Because a lot of it, as parents, sometimes our children need to see it from other people. Not saying that you're a bad parent, not saying that you don't have it all together, but sometimes they just need to see different. Sometimes they need to see other people that can reach them more than you can. Work together, though. You don't have to work against them. Work together. And together, you should be able to address your child. Also, as African Americans, we have to work to get past that counseling stigma. Counselors are here to help. So I would tell a parent, it is okay to take your child to go talk to somebody. That doesn't mean that they're going to be on medication. That doesn't mean that they are going to be sent to the psychiatric hospital. That doesn't mean that. But it means that they have an open and safe space to talk to somebody to help address. I know even at 32, there's just some stuff I don't tell my mom just because I know she can't handle it. She can't handle it. So I talk to my therapist. And back then, my mom would take me to other people who would be like, she needs to talk to somebody to get it together. So parents, it is okay to do that. There are a lot of clinicians like myself who do work with children and adolescents here, from play therapy to cognitive behavior therapy. Let's get out the stigma of medication, hospitalization. That is not it.
Right.
There's a whole plethora of resources for us to hear. Utilize it. We're here.
Right. And I think what you're saying is very important. Is sometimes it's the concern of what that means, right? So if I do utilize the resources, am I saying I'm a bad parent? Am I saying my kid has an issue? Does the stigma follow them throughout their school, or things like that? And so I think that sometimes parents are very concerned about that. And so just even having some education on this is what it means if you utilize these resources. This is what happens if you do have to have an IEP or something like that. It's supposed to be confidential. It's supposed to, things like that. But I think that a lot of times it is some fear about that, about what it means for them as a parent, and then how does that impact their child in the future. So. And
the stigma surrounded it in our community too. Like, what will other people say?
Right.
What will other people think? So as you go, I'm a bad parent. No, you're not at all. You're actually a great parent for going and helping your child get help.
Right. Exactly.
I think that's a thing within our communities.
Yeah.
Because I feel like other communities, my child needs help. Let me go take him to a therapist. I want to go take him to
I've worked with a lot of teens that have been in therapy forever, and it's just a normal thing.
Yeah. But with us, it's just, and I think it's part of the fear too, right? Because some of that is valid. It came from somewhere.
Right.
So I think that's why this is, again, so helpful to have a team come in. This is what a clinician looks like, right? To be able to connect with you. And so.
Yeah, definitely. So tell us why you think therapy is dope.
Therapy is so dope because for me, it's an outlet for me to come in as a clinician with so much on my shoulders, so many responsibilities. It's dope for me to come in and just talk and take off the hat of Miss Hill and just be Chanell and be open and pour out and then be poured into. Therapy is dope for children One, because you can come play and then become better people. Therapy is dope for adolescents because you have people that can walk through you through kids for boyfriend, disappointment. You got a bad grade at school or college to attend. You have somebody to help you who is unbiased and can help you through the milestones of life. So that's why therapy is dope, because you don't have to be here by yourself. And girl, we heard everything. So when I come and be like, look, trying to be ratchet, like the hell's dog, I need to say this is fine, blah, blah, blah. Well, I can't say to our kids and somebody else and walk out and be like, therapy is dope because you can release. You don't have to hold it in. You don't have to be strong. You can let go.
Yeah.
Cry. Okay.
Yeah.
Love it.
That's why therapy is dope.
That's so awesome.
And that also being a strength.
Yes.
You know, tap into your strength of asking for help and receiving help.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So what makes you a dope therapist?
What makes me a dope therapist? Because I am me. Yeah. I am grateful for my grandmother and my mother allowing me and keeping me as a child. That you might be a little different in social butterfly, but Chanell, no matter what to say, we're just gonna hone you and cultivate you, but we want you to be you no matter what. So I'm a dope therapist just because I'm Chanell Hill. I'm a Cali girl living in Chicago. But I like ratchet music. I love God too, and I have such a big heart and compassion. The ability to operate in my purpose and passion makes me a dope therapist because I can incorporate the things that I've gone through as well as my education to be able to reach these kids, be relatable, be compassionate, help them do resilience. And I'm dope because they're dope, and their dopeness helps me be even doper.
I love it.
I
love it.
Awesome. So make sure
they keep me young.
Yes, I'm sure.
I'm right here.
Tell everybody how they should follow you, stay in touch with you, and then I know you also have a book as well.
Yes, so you can stay in touch with me. I am on Instagram as Miss Hill, the social worker. That's MS Hill, the social worker. I am also on Facebook as C Hill, CEE Hill. I am also have my website as Chanell Hill. No, excuse me, ChanellDenae.com. You can also email me at ChanellDenaeHill, ChanellDeneA Hill@gmail.com. I also, on my website, I do have a book. I also have a t-shirt line called God Plus Therapy. And I have some other things coming up for our teens. So you have to stay tuned because 2020 is going to be live.
Awesome.
So you can always check out. I'm open, honest. If you're in Chicago, you can come out to the Black Mental Wellness Expo that we're having on Saturday at the Hyde Park Arts Center. And I'm here ready to engage to help our children.
Awesome.
Love it.
Thank you so much for being a part of the show.
I'll be seeing you guys soon, hopefully.
Yay.
Oh, yay. Okay. All right. Thanks, everybody, for joining and watching. Make sure you follow
Thank you, ladies.
Of course. Follow Melanin and Mental Health across social media, Melanin Health on Twitter, and make sure you head over to melaninmentalhealth.com to check out previous podcasts, all of our dope merchandise, and to find a dope therapist if you are looking for a counselor or therapist. And we will make sure to talk to y'all later. Bye.